These kings were not humans, they were these Anunnaki people. There are people who believe they're the direct descendants of these beings and that they have the right to rule over human beings still to this very day. And they came from the Bureau, they got down to earth, and this is about 450,000 years ago according to the tablets. The Anunnaki, who are also the Atlanteans, that's the same people. The Atlantean is a civilization, Anunnaki means those who came from heaven to earth. Prior to the flood, they put the Igigi. The Igigi, according to these tablets, were the working class people. They worked and mined the land and create structures and cities and everything else, but they worked for 200,000 years and they got tired of working according to the tablets. So they were so pissed off, they were so angry, the conditions were harsh, they felt like they were being converted into slaves. And so they had a coup and they decided to go against the kings of earth. After the flood, they decided to utilize this new tinkered genetically modified version of a Homo sapien sapien. They started this project of capturing hominids and tinkering with their DNA. And they started off with this cloning system at first. So Isis says, I have an idea. She says, I'm going to take an egg from one of the women. And they took the egg and she cleaned out some of the genetic material or whatever they did. They made a zygote. They added some of their essence to the egg. They say essence, I think that's genetic modification in my understanding. They took this zygote, which is what you call in modern science, they put it in her womb. She took it the term 10 months, not 9, 10 months. And then you see her in this famous cylinder scroll holding up this baby saying, my hands have created it. She gave birth to the Adamu, which means first man. And so they put Adam in this Eden, E-D-I-N. The guy who ruled over Eden was Satan, the Lord of Eden, in the tablets. And that was actually Enlil. And the Bible calls him Yahweh. They think he's God. That guy's just masquerading as God. It was never God. And this Eden was this laboratory where they would have these mating rituals between the different peoples. And when they got Adam in there, they tried to mate him with these other ones. Wasn't working out. So they said, okay, let's take some DNA from him. Let's make another one of him. They made Eve. Then they mated them and bingo, it worked. Crazy story. That was about 200,000 years ago. They also genetically modified us by taking chromosome number 2 out of our body, fusing it together and putting telomere caps on each end to limit our lifespans. And scientists now, geneticists at universities, they teach this. They say, we don't know how this happened. It's an artificial mutation that would have taken millions of years to happen, but it happened about 200,000 years ago. So the tablets line up with modern science once again. And so it's the foundation of a high-level civilization. When we got to one of the highest advanced civilizations, which started out in Sumer and then migrated over into the land of Kemet before it became Egypt, the initial pharaohs would be a direct bloodline of one of these Anunnaki people. When they relocated home base to the land of Kemet, they rebuilt the land of Kem out of the mud because there was a great flood. So we're talking about ancient knowledge. They began to create these mystery schools at this dawn of this new era 36,000 years ago. The gentleman who started this, his name was Thoth, T-H-O-T-H. And he's known as a wisdom keeper. He's known all over the entire world, but he ruled over the land of Kemet for 14 or 16,000 years, roughly thereabout, according to the ancient Egyptians. And then he left there and went to Mesoamerica and kickstarted the Teotihuacan in Mexico City. That was all his master architectural plan. And Teotihuacan is part of his African name, which is also known as Tahuti. And Teotihuacan in Mexico really means the city of Tahuti that he built out there. So he left there, and that's why the pyramid complex there mirrors the one at Giza in Africa. Akhenaten is King Tut's father. Akhenaten, he got in big trouble because when you go to Egypt, if you ever notice all those chipped away gods, that was under the order initially, who started that? Akhenaten. So Akhenaten decided, I'm going to become a monotheistic ruler and not the kind that believes in multiple gods. And what got into him was Amun-Ra, who's also Thoth's brother. He's the one who said, whenever you give thanks, you say amen to me. You give thanks to me. This is why people say amen. They're not saying amen to the creator of the universe. They're actually saying amen to this guy who says a brutal killing ruler. There'll be no other God but me. I'm a jealous God. That made it into the biblical text. Why would the creator of the universe be jealous? This was Amun-Ra talking. You can look him up on the Jewish American Library and all that stuff. His name is all over the place. He's all in there interacting and talking and creating all kinds of issues and problems. And he told Akhenaten that you worship me and you get everyone to worship me and deface all the other gods. So Akhenaten started ordering and decreeing that all these things be chipped away everywhere you go. Chip away the faces, chip away the ears. That's why he was kicked out of Egypt. He went to the Great Pyramid and he went to that stone box area inside the king's chamber and took Ark of the Covenant with him. See, Akhenaten is Moses. That's the Moses story. The people that were this Exodus that left out of Egypt, they were the people who converted from believing in multiple gods to believing in the one God religion, monotheism, following Akhenaten. And he fled with all these people out of Egypt with the Ark of the Covenant. And that's why the powers that be sent an army after him. They're like, you took the source of our power with you. We gotta have that. They ended up in the desert with the Ark of the Covenant, which is well noted and documented in biblical text. A super advanced technological machine. It was multi-purposeful. We know this because of the way that it's designed and what it reads, what it says. What it was capable of doing. It's a weapon, but it also has the capability of being a power source. So it does multiple things. And to handle it, you had to have these special kind of boots on because it was a capacitor. And some scientists at several universities experimented with recreating the Ark, and it actually turned on. There was more than one Ark. They've all been taken now, so nobody knows where they are. The last one that we knew of was in Ethiopia, and that was the last one known of that was publicly available. The rest are probably in some type of a military bunker. The Great Pyramid itself is a power generator. It was built on top of an aquifer, and the water running underneath the Great Pyramid would run underneath in that aquifer, would then run right underneath the solid granite, magnetized granite that was there, crystal granite. It creates physiostatic electricity. Those ions would get pushed up into the Grand Gallery, and they used to have resonating rods in the slots going up the Grand Gallery. When it got to the king's chamber, some other type of fusion would happen, and it would then send the energy up through the apex, and the apex, which is now missing, would then transmit it out wirelessly to the obelisk, which then collect this ambient electricity. And if you had a JED, you can pick up this ambient wireless electricity. You can see the JED connected to light bulbs and so forth, like at Ndera. And so Nikola Tesla copied that same energy power technique with the Wardenclyffe Tower. What they realized was we can take this Ark. They made this makeshift granite box, which is not a sarcophagus because I can't even fit in. I'm 6'4". I knew it wasn't a sarcophagus, but it's the same exact, I measured it. It's the same exact dimensions as what? The Ark of the Covenant. So when Akhenaten took that, he took the power source for Egypt. As time continued to go by and cultures and the way that the economics and the civilizations and the kingship and everything changed, they began to then, for whatever reason, handpick specific people to do specific things, and they would then create these genetically modified or bloodline people. Yeshua was one of them. He was a chosen one for whatever the full mission was. And I think the real mission was to bring a certain level of Christ consciousness, which existed before Jesus Christ, that terminology ever came to be. The first baptism that was taught is in the Emerald Tablets. He talks about being baptized via elevated consciousness, being able to rise up to another level and look back to see where you were before. And you'll be born again many times in one lifetime if you continue to ascend. I put the New Testament where Jesus is speaking, and I put Thoth the Atlantean's words from the Emerald Tablets, and you see that Jesus is literally mimicking what he learned from the ancient mystery schools, which he learned directly from the Egyptian mysteries from Thoth the Atlantean's teachings. The real text is 36,000 years old. It's just a mimicking of ancient texts, and a lot of different religions cropped out of his spiritual writings that he wrote in those Emerald Tablets. I believe that Jesus, his real name is Yeshua. First of all, he was a real person that did exist. I've been to the house where he grew up in Egypt, because if you remember in the Bible, Jesus disappears from the Bible at the age of 12. He's gone. Where does he go? The Gospel of the Holy 12, which was left out of the Bible, has the answer. He goes to Egypt. I've been there. If you go to Coptic Cairo, you can go to the house where Jesus and his mother lived. He was learning the Egyptian mysteries. From there, he went all the way up into Tibet to learn Reiki healing and Qigong. And then he left from there and went down into India to learn the mystic arts, teaching reincarnation all the way back to Egypt. And then the Bible picks up, I call my son out of Egypt. And then you see him appear on the back of a donkey in Jerusalem at the age of 32. Christ consciousness is ancient, it's super ancient. And it's a certain level of consciousness that a person can get to this level where they're all knowing, all loving, they're the epitome of service to others and unconditional love for one another. A real true ascended being. And Jesus never said he was going to return. He said that Christ would return, and raising everyone up to a high level and bringing back a new golden age, creating a true super Christ civilization. When you look at the smallest scale of things, it gives you almost an identical mirror as to what's going on the larger scale. So I began to realize that God is us and we are God, and that God is on a data collection mission. The whole premise of this third dimensional realm and human beings operating in this realm and potential other alien beings and everything else throughout the entire universe are all doing one thing, very simple: collecting information and sending it back to the source. So the universe is a mind. God is part of this universal mind, this universal consciousness, and there's only one consciousness. All of these living things that exist throughout the entire third dimension are all doing one thing. They are transmitting back to source all the information of what it's like to be a blade of grass, what it's like to be Billy Carson, what it's like to be Danica Patrick. And so the universal consciousness is actually taking this information and it's actually collecting this data to analyze what is it like to operate through this grand experiment of this third dimension. It's a learning process and we're all a part of that. And so it's all about understanding that we are God and God is us. It's in everything and we're in everything. Separation is an illusion. Division is an illusion. Everything is actually all one. God is a frequency. It's our job to tune in. Well, the human body is an avatar, just like the movie Avatar. It's a receptor. It receives and holds the spirit temporally. And so the avatar body is set up in a way where it's a biological robot and machine imbued with sophisticated technologies and advanced capabilities that we are right now not fully tapped into. Some people have better gifts and energy than others. We have a couple things that hold your spirit in your body, that lock that frequency in. One is the neural correlates of consciousness. Those are 3 giant neurons that wrap around the inside of the skull. And when you look at them on a scan, it looks like a crown of thorns. It's Christ consciousness. It has nothing to do with him putting on a real crown of thorns. It's the one that's inside of every single human being's head right now. But that works in collaboration with the magnetite crystal and your colostrum and your neocortex. Those things all work together to combine to allow a frequency to be encapsulated and be hosted inside the physical avatar body. You become the ghost in the shell and you animate this shell via that spirit that's being housed, and it's only being locked in because of those 4 things I just mentioned. It's crazy how much power we have inside of us. Words have power. Words can literally affect and change the ether of space-time itself. The closer you get to the language of light, which is what the ancient Kemetic people and Egyptians would speak back in ancient times, those words had supreme power over reality itself. Just speaking certain ways and saying certain things can control different outcomes, because we know cymatic frequencies, which are created by our vocal cords, they emanate out of you. We think they're just words, but they're actually codes that the universe picks up, programming codes, and then the universe then enacts those codes. That's how a lot of things happen. It's a way of, creating different realities, and it's the power of the voice and the power of speaking. The brain is just like a microchip. It's a microprocessor. It's a central processing unit. It allows you to be able to connect to multiple dimensions. Scientists at the Brain Institute discovered that the brain now connects to 11 dimensions. And we have the capability of tapping into higher knowledge and higher dimensions. And then it finally comes out, they discovered it's actually real, and that the brain is a multi-dimensional functional computer. It's a processor. Quantum entanglement first came to me when I was just doing a walking meditation. It came to me as parabolic down conversion, to take 2 particles and phase shift them on the same frequency so that you can quantum entangle the particles. Then you can take one particle and shift it to the other end of the universe if you can get there. And when you change the particle local to you, the other one will change instantaneously. In other words, if one is in a spin rate up, the other one will go spin rate down. When you twist this one and put it down, this one will go up, and vice versa. So you can create this up-down communication between 2 entangled particles. It goes even further than that. Scientists now discovered that you can quantum entangle through conscious thought. And they've actually entangled people's thoughts together now. They took one person and put him in front of a video game screen, put another person that was, I think, in 2 laboratories away, was looking at the screen, but the one that was blindfolded had the remote control. The one that was looking was controlling the hand of the one that was blindfolded. So we know that when we get an epiphany like that, there's very rarely original thought. A lot of the times we get in sync with a thought that already exists, because we know that all thoughts are light waves. So every single thought you're thinking right now, and I'm thinking right now, it generates waves that leave our skull and go out into the ether permanently, forever. Everyone's conscious thoughts are all around us, floating around in this ether we call the grid. And so you can get in sync with something and you can download it. And if you can discern that download, you can have an epiphany moment. quantum entanglement is so incredible because if you really understand where we're going to go in the future with communications, it's going to be quantum entangled communications. If you have a quantum entangled communications device on Earth and you take one with you in the ship, or you have a communications array that's been launched years ahead into deep space, you can instantaneously send a response and get a response back. All thoughts and ideas and concepts most likely are downloaded from the field. You know, just like an alien race 2 light years away can pick up I Love Lucy from 1960, because that radio wave, which is a wave of light, can be picked up and decoded, and you can watch I Love Lucy from 1960. And we're living in a fractal holographic matrix. That's what we're actually living in. And this whole thing is one giant energetic grid. And the thing about it is, distance is an illusion. The distance between where I am now in Florida and wherever you are right now in the world is actually, it doesn't even exist. We're local in the same location. We're still connected in the same location. Individuality, separation, all illusions doesn't exist. There's only one entity and one consciousness providing this third dimension with the illusion of separation. If you take a planet in space, it warps space around it. And that warped space allows things to fall toward the planet. Our conscious thoughts warp the ether of space-time and create this well. And that's how the law of attraction works. Things fall toward us based on what we're warping, what we're focusing on. The energy field that we're using to warp, that's what begins to fall towards us. Whatever that frequency we're on when we're thinking, that's the warp space that's now sending back low frequency things. Or if you're in high frequency warp space, it's sending back high frequency things. You're entangled with things in the universe based on the frequency you're at. As an inexperienced soul, and begin to learn and make mistakes and grow and see what you can do, and also a certain level of suffering. And then when you begin to master this dimension, you actually can begin to incarnate on and in the plane that you desire. So plane means dimension. See, the third dimension is a proving ground. It's a testing ground. It's a place for you to come. And in every ascension process, my mission is to achieve the highest, most best lifestyle, living entity, energy, help, love, expressions, artistic creation that I possibly can in every single dimension.